introducing themselves, and then we'll go straight into the topic. We'll start with Elder Darrell.
Well, thank you so much. I'm very thankful to be on today. Daryl Telefarrell from Nashville, Tennessee. I serve alongside of Bishop Joseph Walker at the Mount Zion Baptist Church.
Good evening, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in from. My name is Ty Carter. I am in Oakland, California. I'm pastor of the Wellspring Worship Center, and I'm glad to be on with my brother, Pastor Daryl, Pastor Mark, and yeah, I'm ready.
All right. Thank you so much. I believe I've had the opportunity to get a two of you minister on some occasions and how God is using you in your various ministries. Over the past few weeks, the issue about race and racism has really taken a toll on this nation. And so today we just want to be able to give the young man, the young woman out there who doesn't quite know how to handle himself in relation to what a Christian should be doing in these particular times. Yeah. So the very first question I would like to put forward is how did we get to this point where it seems as if people all over the world are crying out against the injustice? Pastor
So you're asking, how did we get to this point where everybody around the world is crying out,
Right.
and really talking about the racial divide and injustice?
Right.
Well, there's a concept in physics that says that contents under pressure will soon explode. In other words, it gets at the idea that if you keep these contents under pressure without a release of any kind, sooner or later, there's going to be an explosion of some sort, either an explosion or an implosion. And I believe what you're seeing playing out all around the world, even not just in the United States, but all around the world, even in Canada, they're having some unrest there. You're seeing people who have been under pressure. You're seeing individuals who have been pressed down so long to the point that this is now the tipping point. What took place with this particular situation was two primary factors. One is you're dealing with a situation that is all too real for us. It's happening over and over and over again. But then secondly, which is why I believe this really became what it was, is that you're dealing with a group of people who got time for it. In other words, literally, you have a group of people who are not going to work, they're not going to school, so they have looked and therefore longed for something to do. Now, did we want this to do? No. Did we want to have to march in the streets for racial equality? No. But you've got a group of people who have time. So consequently, people are fed up, they're at their tipping point, and they're trying to let their voice be heard.
Right. Pastor Tyrone, what do you think?
I really have nothing else to say, Pastor. I mean, there's really nothing. I mean, to add anything, it's just that it's the domino effect of not dealing with the matter heads in the nail. We've been dealing with this for centuries. Our grandmothers, our grandfathers, our great grandmothers, and our ancestors have been dealing with the same issue. Nothing to do. Unfortunately, it's nothing to do. And we're tired. So we're here. No, the government, police, they're still hurting us. They've been hurting us. for centuries. Centuries. They were never. Truth was never invented to protect us. They were there to put us in our place. And
right,
that's what we're dealing with. So it's not a matter of how do we get here. It's what do we really have to do, and how do we get out? That's the question. We know how we got here.
Mhm.
And
right,
what are we gonna do to get out?
right,
You know.
Yeah.
right. And I believe that's why we're having this discussion to be able to find out as people who love the Lord and other people look up to be able to sort of give them some sense of direction in terms of how to handle themselves as we uh, endeavor to move out of this kind of situation that we are in. So when you watch television, when you watch how people talk, you realize that there is so much anger out there, and those are youth who all that they know is what is happening currently, and they are for direction. So my question to us is, how do we encourage the Christian youth or anybody out there? How do we enable them to channel that anger to a positive way so that the protest is not tend to riot, something like that.
The question is, how do we respond to what?
How do we channel that anger from what we are experiencing as a Christian youth? How do we channel that anger into having some form of protest and not destroying stuff?
Um, well, Bible says in Ephesians 4:26, be angry but sin not.
Right,
That's part of it. I mean, from a biblical, spiritual perspective. But
right,
also Isaiah says, learn to do well and make sure that you seek justice and rebuke
right,
the oppressor. So
right,
silence is not the answer. Looting is not the answer either.
right,
But as me and Pastor Telfer was talking prior to this call started, it's not so much us that's starting the looting. We just have to have the discipline to walk
right.
away. Because it's not
Mhm.
really us that's even engaging in it per se. It's just that we the ones that's they putting on camera, but we just we have to shut it down, you know. And I think all of that is necessary. You know? That's how they convicted, you know, not where we haven't got convictions yet, but that's how they arrested these four officers. Because if we wouldn't have been here, I feel like guaranteed they would not have been arrested. They would have
Right,
been patting the back
right,
and that would have been that. So uh, I really don't think that what's going on is not necessarily a non-Christian way. It's just personal preference per se, in my opinion.
Mhm.
So
Pastor, what is your take on how we can channel anger?
I think Pastor Ty makes a very good point in that our responsibility is to um, be angry. The Bible gives us permission to be angry. When you search the scriptures, Jesus was angry on several occasions. I mean, to the point that he went into the temple and flipped over tables based upon his anger. However,
Right,
Jesus cautions us to allow that anger to flow, but don't sin in that anger.
mhm.
I think
right,
that the way that we channel or help our young people channel it is, first of all, we got to be real with them about what's going on. We have to have a real dialogue and discourse with them about what is racism, not the racism of the 60s, the racism of 2020, 2020. We have to talk about what is happening around us. Now, the natural idea is somebody will say, well, why do you have to have the conversation? They see it. They got phones. They can Snapchat it. They can Facebook it. They can IG it. No, we as the more mature, if you will, have to have a conversation in an effort to thoroughly process what's going on. Because honestly, many of us as adults haven't even processed what's going on. So we're trying to help them and we need help ourselves. But the way that we channel it is going out and participating in some of the protests. But the important thing is, as Pastor Ty mentioned earlier, it's okay to protest, but the looting is not what's up. The looting is counterproductive to the cause. When you have individuals going out, destroying stores, defacing property, doing various things of that nature, that is counterproductive to the overarching theme and reason by which we have gathered together to say justice and equality. That often, mutes, if you will, our message, and that's not what we're trying to do. So we have to encourage our young people to get out and protest, but also we have to get out. We have to encourage our young people to channel that anger in a positive way to get out and vote as well. Those who have the capacity to vote, get out and vote. Those who are of age, get out and vote. It's fine to get out and protest, but your voice is also heard in the voting booth. When November comes and it's time to re-elect or elect a new president, it is my opinion, and I want to go on record to say this, that we elect a new president. The current administration that we have is less than subpar. And let me say that again. The current administration that we have is less than subpar. I mean, this is, somebody, I had a conversation with somebody the other day and talking about leadership. This is leadership, but it's not good leadership. So we have to help our young people understand and differentiate between what is acceptable leadership and what is not acceptable leadership. So we have to help our young people channel all of this rage and anger into something positive that ultimately reaps dividends for our community. Something that's not going to cause us to look further into the future and say, we're no better off than we started this protest. We don't want that.
Right. That's so true. That's so true. So you look at people's ideas with reference to the protests and so on and so forth, and then you come across other people. When you talk about racism, it is more like it's like something that is foreign to them. Um, how do we connect with people who have different views about racism for them to be able to see the impact that it has in the society? Adero?
Oh, okay. Sorry. You said how do we connect to individuals who basically don't understand or don't desire to understand the racism that's going on in our
Racism, and
society?
for them, racism doesn't exist at all.
Well, I think first of all, it's like preaching the gospel. I think that you have to meet a person where they are, and in meeting a person where they are, I can talk about I could talk about hermeneutics and homiletics. I could talk about the exegetical model and all of that. But to someone that's coming into the body of Christ for the first time, they're not going to understand that.
Right.
So when you're dealing with individuals that don't understand or don't know racism, and notice I'm doing the air quotes because I'm gonna come back to these air quotes in a second. When you're dealing with individuals that are dealing with that, you have to slow walk them into the story. You have to sometimes paint the picture and allow them to see themselves in the picture. Show everybody else in the picture and then show themselves in the picture. so that they can understand that they are either perpetuating this racism or they are silently acquiescing or saying yes and allowing this racism to be pervasive in the community. Now, the reason why I put
Right.
air quotes is because I believe that if anyone over the age of 10, anyone over the age of 10 is cognizant of racism. Now, our
Right.
younger generation may not be as knowledgeable about racism as we are, may not be able to discern and detect racism as we can, but anyone that is an adult of voting age is absolutely clear on racism. I believe, however, our counterparts, um, it is a choice to be ignorant. It is a voluntary ignorance that they are not, that they don't want to face the reality, because it causes you to look in your own closet and realize how cluttered your stuff is. And it also causes you to say,
Right.
I need to declutter some stuff in an effort to say, my stuff stinks too.
Mm. Wow. Wow. So Tyra, what's your take?
Um, one, I totally agree again with Pastor T.
Yeah.
But I also think, I mean, it's just for those who they just refuse to see it. I mean, like, what angered me, right before we go on the call, I saw an article that Drew Brees talked about the flag and people not, they can't support anybody who disrespects the flag and there's somebody how you flag. And it's just like, what are you talking about? You're talking about the
Right.
flag versus a human life. And um, said, like, he said, if we not Black Lives Matter, he said, but it's also the point, are we equal? He went on to describe dogs lives matter, whales lives matter, cats lives matter. Because we see that. We see American picture of a dog. We see all these different things. But when you have a dog, cat, a whale, and me as a black man, and we all are in dire need, who are you going to say? Are we as equal as you, or do you see us just as equal as animals? And that's the mindset that other counterparts have to understand. We know we matter. Because we were all created equal in the image of
Right.
God.
Right.
But if for those people, I mean, anybody who participated in it's their choice. It's not a, oh, I didn't know. That's no excuse is, I mean, it's wrong, but in this country with camera phones and all this stuff, if you look at George Floyd and still saying, like, this attorney is trying to say in Minnesota that, there still needs more evidence, then you are racist. Period. I mean, there's no nice way to say you're racist, and you got hatred in your heart. And you better repent before you go to hell. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
I
bro says, I'm just serious.
yeah, for real.
Right. So I get the the fact that when it comes to preaching the gospel, for some the message of the gospel can be foolishness to them, and so for those, it is what it is. Um, I don't. Would you say that people are taught racism, and if they are taught racism, or if they are not taught racism, at what point would you say that racism really comes and they begin to exhibit? Because you see a black kid and a white kid, and they really don't have any problem. But it gets to a particular time, all of a sudden there is some difference, and they see some, uh, they begin to act funny. So, what do you think we can do? Because I have a daughter, I know you also have a daughter. Um, what do we need to do for our children coming up, um, for them to have some safeguards in terms of these situations? Because before the man or the woman grows up, he or she is a child, and when they are children, they don't know anything about racism. So at what age, for instance, should we begin to talk to our children about these kind of things? That's a
Well, I don't have any children uh, of my own. I do have two goddaughters, and I am concerned about the world in which they are living in now, and I'm concerned about the
right,
world that they are growing up in. And I believe that it is incumbent upon us as adults, whether it be biological parents or godparents, to um, have an authentic conversation with them and tell them exactly what's going on in a way and on a
right,
level that they can understand it. Um, the way I believe that the way that we safeguard um, our children is arming them with the truth. You don't arm them with the truth; you are disarming them in a world full of guns and knives and weapons pointed at their head. When you arm them with the
right,
truth, you give them the best chance to fight against systemic racism. You give them the best chance to fight against um, all of the weaponry that's coming in their direction. I think also, and I'll end with this. I think we as adults have to be vulnerable before our children to even say, baby, there's a lot that's going on in the world. Mama don't even understand it. Daddy don't even understand it. But let's pray about this and ask God for guidance so that he can help us to understand it. I think that we always have to bring God in it so that they still understand that amid all that's going on here, as a parent, we don't have all the answers. Um, when I was growing up, I used to think that my mother and my father had the answer for everything. I mean, why is the sky blue? I knew they knew. Why is the grass green? I knew they knew. Why? How come dirt is brown? I knew they knew. But if I asked them some real hard pressed questions, maybe they didn't know. And I think that the vulnerability of hearing, baby, I don't know, is very, very, very liberating for a child. And also, it also gives them the ammunition to say, well, if you don't know, maybe we can figure it out together. Because if we really listen to each other as a family, you'd be surprised the wealth of knowledge that even our young people of today have. The young people of today are much smarter than when we were kids. So I think that we have to arm them with the truth and arm them with the best chance to fight against this systemic racism. We can't hear you, Ty.
I'm muting myself. I have too much background noise. Again, I echo Pastor Del Toro. Excuse me, Pastor Daryl Telefero. And yeah, we just have to tell them the truth. I mean, it's been said many times. Racism is never you're never born a racist. You're taught how to be one. And we have to explain to our children that they have to conform to what they actually be. To be who you are and be comfortable who you are. We don't have to. We have to stop adjusting to fit them. Well, we stay who we are and make them adjust. Either you're gonna be my friend or not. And I think that's the thing that we have to like Amazon and several other things now. You can watch it for free. They set up and made her watch it last night. But we want to see what type of things that are happening back then are still happening now. It's still because of the same reason. It's still because of the color of your skin. It has nothing to do with how smart you are. That has nothing to do with your degrees and all your wonderful accolades. At the end of the day, they still see you as a black person, and that's not your fault or wear that proudly. You are black, and there's nothing wrong with it. And I have friends that growing up in California, that I played with that wasn't the same race. As we got older, we hang out. Racial divide. It wasn't because of economic. It was literally because of the racial divide, and unfortunately, that is America. And so we have to, as guard. As Pastor T said, we have to guard our children, but we're not guarding so much that we hide the truth from them. We have to, because they're going to run into it, and it's best to start teaching them now versus they get out there and they don't know how to react. You kind of have me. I'm learning. You put me in a car. You drive a manual stick. I know how to drive an automatic. But then one day you just throw me in the car and be like, "Let's go." I'm a freak out. I know what I'm supposed to do. And you get mad at me because I'm not putting the clutch down. But you didn't tell me that this ride would be different than the automatic. I'm just going that I'm going. And we don't teach our children difference, even when they go to college. And of course, we support historical black colleges. But even from that demographic, once you get out, that still is not going to be what America is. We still support it. So I want to send my daughter to, and whatever future children the Lord give me, I want to send them all to historical black colleges. But at the end of the day, I need them to also know that once you come out of here, you still black, and you still got to live in this other world. Everybody smiles, don't love you, and they just have to understand it. And we're learning that, even now.
So we really have to give our kids the picture, like give them exactly what they need to hear, tell them the truth.
Yeah, I think Pastor Telfer had.
Okay.
Just one more thing is that I think what is incredibly important that we do is that we tell our children from the house is what is on Pastor Ty's shirt is that you matter. Because at the end of the day, we're sending them into a world that's telling them that they don't matter. We're sending them into a world that's telling them that they're not the content of their character, but they are the color of their skin.
Yeah.
No, if we tell them that they matter and different things of that nature, then it will dispel any myth that will be trying, to be thrown at them. And Pastor Ty, I'm sure you can say that much better than I can.
No, but that's the truth. I mean, because even today, because of what I was taught as a child about myself. So, we even have things that happen within our own race, within our own ethnicity. But there's nobody who could deter me from thinking that I don't matter because I was taught, especially I was taught in my house that I matter. And it's up to us as the church to teach our young as well, and our young adults and elders, everybody that they matter. Like that's goes across period. We got to that we matter, no matter what we do or did.
That's right.
That's right. I totally agree. So
that brings me
that
to
brings me to
the next
the
question.
next question.
What should be
What should be the role of the church
today
today
in bridging
in bridging
the racial
the
divide?
racial divide?
Pastor Darrell?
Pastor Darrell?
I think that's an excellent question. Um, the church has to take a more aggressive role in bridging the racial divide. First of all, I believe that we as the church can no longer just be comfortable with being the church on the corner. We as the church cannot
Right,
be comfortable with just being the big church that everybody goes to or being the small church that everybody in there knows each other. No, whatever church you fit in, we have to be consumed with information. And what I mean by that is when you look at the civil rights movement of the 1960s, the 1950s, 1960s, you'll realize that the church was the epicenter of that movement.
Right.
People went
right,
to the church because the church was one, the safest place to go in the community. Two, the leaders within the church were knowledgeable men and women who would prepare the community for what they were about to endure. I believe
right,
wholeheartedly that we have churches that are more reactive than responsive
mm,
to such atrocities. So we as the church have to begin to prepare our members for how to deal with situations like this, both mentally and spiritually. At the end of the day, for any pastor who does not want to talk about the racial injustice that's happening all around us, any pastor that doesn't want to talk about the inequalities that we're seeing day to day, is a man and or woman of God that is not preaching the evangelion, the good news of Jesus Christ. Because at the end of the
right,
day, the gospel of Jesus Christ is a gospel that reaches all people.
Right.
There's no
right.
Jesus says there's no Greek, there's no Jew. You know,
Mhm.
there's no separation as relates to the gospel. So I think that it's up to us as the church to do that. The other thing is um, we have to make sure that we're preparing our young people not just how to spiritually fight against this. Yes, we need to teach them how to spiritually fight, but not just how to spiritually fight. Because one of the downfalls, and I'm a product of the church. I'm a church kid. I grew up in church. But one of the
Right,
downfalls of the church is that our fail safe phrase for everything was just pray about it. Just pray about it. And that's not good enough. We need prayer and a plan. We need prayer
mm,
and action. James says faith
right.
without works is dead,
Is that
which means that all of us have to get together and devise a plan and a strategy on how we're going to attack this. That means your church coming up with voting rights panels so that they could talk about how those with felons can get their rights restored, different things of that nature. We have to do all that we can as the church to not just be statues to be adored. We have to be the church that's not just relics in museums to be admired, but we have to actually do the work of ministry. Jesus was among the
right?
people. Jesus would have been out in Missouri. He would have been out in
Mhm.
Minnesota. He would have been out in Oakland. He would have been out in Nashville. He would have been out in Philadelphia protesting with
Right,
those who are protesting. And we have to do just the same. But we have to do it in a
right,
spiritual way that honors our brother and sister. And we have to do it in an intelligent way that speaks truth to power, but also for the long term, not just for the here and now.
Right.
right, right, right.
Pastor Darrell?
Is that right?
Everything he said, literally everything. The only thing I would add is that we need to also have a church needs to also have some self discipline classes because people need to know how to physically protect themselves as well. These people out here are acting a fool, and you need to know how to at least block them if you don't know how to play. And
Yeah, no, that's real.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it is necessary.
It's necessary. I mean, because you see the police like they even knocking out our black women. Like as they standing out there, and they literally grabbing them, and throwing them. Like we gotta learn how to protect ourselves. We have to learn how to. We have to. This is happening. And the thing about the civil rights movement was that we as a people, we protected ourselves. We protected each other. And we have to, like we can't we have to do more than just record. As scary as that might be. Because trust me, I mean, I wasn't in that situation, and I can say I don't know what instinct would have done in that moment. Because yes, I already know as a young man, my life, I already know they go first. I'm trying to help. But if we as people are on guns, if that was hard, going to fight spiritually and physically, then we would. But the thing is that we got to stop behind the keyboard. And that's what we're to. Like, even we got to start hiding behind the sacred desk of the pulpit.
Yeah.
Get out there. Like, and not for a photo op. Get out there.
That's right.
Right.
It's obvious when it's photo op. Like, so you have to get out there and be amongst the people. Like, you have to. You got to smell like feet.
That's right.
You got to.
Right.
And that's the work of the church. You know, many would argue and say, well, back then, that was the only place that they could really gather and all the other stuff. Yeah and no.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we have seen they gathered at schools and everything, but the church, as Pastor T said, that it was a place where they felt that the pastor even if you pray, you was going to also show me what we were going to do after we. And that's what we have to do. We know we wrestle not against flesh and blood. We know that. So we gotta also there gotta be something in the natural that I preached about it. The Lord everything is actually that's in His law. That the Lord is raising up prophets in this hour. Speak because biblically, whenever something needed to be changed, the Lord spoke to the prophet and the prophet.
Right.
The issue is we have shut the prophets' mouths and have demonized them. And now we got people like Trump running around with no type of authority. But that's what God is doing. He's about to raise up prophets, real prophets, speak to the mayors, to speak to, and they're going to have to listen. Because if they don't, it's going to be like a fair situation. They're going to have some plagues of their own because they're not experienced. But that's what the church has to be in a position to say that. We're scared. We're scared. We try to be their friend.
Right.
I love everybody. I ain't trying to be none of their friends here. If the Lord tells me to say something, then that's what it is. And that's how we have to. Right. And you have to be okay with it. I believe that's like
So pretty much it's more like the church is being too heavily minded, and we are losing track of the fact that there is still work that we can do in relation to our neighbors, in relation to ourselves, in relation to the community. Because then what I think is that it seems as if church is over on Sundays.
No, I can't say that the church is, personally, I can't say that the church is too heavenly minded.
Mm-hmm.
But what I will say, however, is that um, when I was growing up, and I would my mother and father would make us dinner. I grew up in a house with four sisters, my mother and my father. My mother and father would make us dinner. They'd have, let's just say, chicken, green beans, and let's just say macaroni. Let's just say I would eat the
Right.
chicken and I would eat the macaroni. I really would not touch the green beans. But my mother or my father would say, Daryl, you need to eat the green beans because now you're eating a balanced meal. What I believe
Right.
that the church is not doing is they're not balancing the approach to ministry. There are some churches that are
Right.
more concerned with titles, suits, reformations, um, musicals, conferences, annual days, anniversaries, stuff like that.
Right.
But
Right.
they're not really concerned about the true needs of the people in the pew. And that's where I believe we're missing it.
Yeah, because we're not too like you can't. I don't even think you could ever be too heavenly. Um,
Right.
but I do believe, like I said, we lost the balance, and I think also too we have to understand that just because your assignment or your niche or whatever might not be social justice, you might not be Paul Bryant, you might not be Dr. King, you might not be in that passion, but we are never called to be ignorant in that.
Right.
So
Right.
we have to, while say for instance, I feel like I'm learning day by day about social justice and things that make it. But and I want everyone, to make sure that we are, have equal rights and all those things and justify. I'm all for it. But I believe that I'm not that person that's supposed to be out in this area. That doesn't give me the excuse to be lazy and not educate myself and educate people that I need in this area. Does not mean that, say, for instance, if I have a brother or a sister in my church who is that pastor, I'm supposed to get back to them. Now I have to take on my lead in this and get to have them who got us assigned in this area. And I think that's the problem. Just because you don't lead it doesn't mean that you don't participate. And that's the issue with the church that we were targeted and all doing it and what I was supposed to do. No, sometimes we're supposed to follow too. And we're supposed to follow those who God has given voice to those things. And so that's we have to stop making little just like we got to get behind each other, and that's the issue. Like, it's just we have to, and stop being late. Stop being late. You never call it late. And you take people as you said, and yeah, birthday services or all of that stuff. That's not transforming anything.
Right.
We you got to do better than that.
So
So
it should be
it should be looking beyond
Sunday
Sunday and get more involved with people who
the
have
expertise
the
that
expertise that
we
we
may not have
may not have, pretty much. Um,
so
so,
I mean
I mean, we're rounding up
with reference
with
to
reference to, the protests and so on and so forth.
beyond the protest,
Beyond the protests,
what should we be
what
doing?
should we be doing?
Because we are
Because,
out there
we are out there
trying to
trying to
make our voices
make
heard
our voices heard and so on and so forth.
beyond the protest.
Beyond the protests,
What is a
what is a
sustainable thing
sustainable thing that you believe that
we should be doing?
we should be doing?
Okay.
Educate, pray, and speak. Educate yourself. Educate yourself in voting rights. Educate yourself because we're not just supposed to vote for presidential. We have to vote for the mayor. Because if we paid attention to the news a couple of days ago, President Trump got upset because he had governors out of their way because they refused to stop the protesting, and they are trying to get behind so that they could actually change justice with all that's going on. And he's saying, y'all are all that stuff. If we don't vote for the governors, it doesn't matter what president. We have to vote at the local, the region, all these things matter, and the national. But we have to be educated. We have to be educated on whatever the yes on Bill 58, whatever that might be. And you can't just educate yourself in historical things. Educate yourself in things that are spiritual. And educate, like we have to educate. And then we do have to pray. Like we can't take that out of the equation. We have to pray, but then we also have to speak up. We can't allow, and we have to make all people accountable. Like I said yesterday, I don't want my white friend texting me, telling me that they are with me. I want you to publicly say something. You texting me saying I'm with you or that I'm with you privately, that don't mean nothing. But I want you to speak up publicly, show it, and take the hit from whoever want to say something crazy to you. Take that hit, stand up and speak publicly, and that's the thing that we have to do. And just like going forward, I don't think nothing wrong with it's bringing us to this point. Now we got to go to the next level, and like we got to vote. All this that vote doesn't matter, that is bull. We have to vote. That's an excuse. You don't want to read and you don't want to learn on what these things. I bet you, if you vote and get the right people in and hold the mayor out here, man, we a group of us, we're writing to her every day, every week. Because before this happened, Corona was happening, and she didn't say nothing about it.
Wow.
So it's like, we ain't heard from you. You hiding. No. We voted you in. You got to say something. You got to leave. Like, you're not called to sit back and be silent. You're called to lead. Just like we put the demand on taxes, we got to put the demand on the government officials that we elect, and that we got to learn. We have to be educated. We can't demand them about something that we don't even know nothing about. That's my
Well, I just will echo honestly all of what Pastor Ty just mentioned. The only thing that I would say to add to that would be exactly what he said. We got to pray. We have to pray about it, because at the end of the day, we not only need tangible strategy, but we also need divine strategy. We need God to give us wisdom on how to approach these issues and how to deal with these issues in such a way that brings about sustainability. The other thing that we have to do is we have to make sure that we are participating. And what I mean by participating is we've got to not just be comfortable going out and protesting. Protesting has its place, but we can't be just comfortable going out and protesting. We as the church have the responsibility to encourage our young people to run for these offices, run for councilmen, run for aldermen, run for governor, run for mayor, run for these offices that will allow us to not just vote for a person, but actually sit in the seat so that we can legislate laws, not just sitting behind the desk, but I'm sorry, not just sitting in front of the desk, but now I'm behind the desk. Now I'm not just asking for the paper, but I got the pen. So we have to pray. We have to participate. The other thing that we have to do as a church, what I would encourage every church to do is to, and let me say this, and I mean this exactly how I'm going to say it. If you're a church and you are watching all of this unfold, you are you're a pastor and you're watching this live right now, I don't care who you are. I don't care what your title is. I don't care how long you've been pastoring. It doesn't matter. If you are watching this live right now and your church does not have a voting campaign, you as the pastor have not addressed your church about the importance of voting. Shame on you. Shame on you. Because at the end of the day, it's fine for your people to do it. But we as the members, we as the sheep are waiting on the shepherd for direction.
Right.
The other part of that is if you have a church bus and that bus is parked on election day, shame on you. If you have a church bus and that bus is full of gas, but it's sitting in your parking lot, shame on you. Now, I know these are strong words, and I may get some backlash from this, but it's okay. Shame on you. Why am I saying that? Because at the end of the day, there's an amazing poem by Langston Hughes. It says, "Live your creed." It says, "I would rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I would rather one walk with me than just show the way. An eye is a better pupil, more willing than the ear. Advice may be misleading, but your example is always clear." In other words, what I want to see is don't just talk about the importance of voting. Let voting be so important that you're sending a bus to the neighborhoods where people don't have cars so that they can go and vote. Let's not just talk about voting, but let's, just like we have an usher day, just like we have a nurse's day, just like we have a pastor's anniversary day, let's have a voting day where we have everybody is registered to vote on this day. I mean, we have to do all that we can to ensure that things change as relates to the climate and the culture of our current society. The final thing that I'll say is this. At the end of the day, it is our responsibility, according to Micah, to do justice and to walk humbly with our God. In other words, when you're doing justice, you are representing God as you're doing justice. It is our
Right.
responsibility not just to talk about how, and I'm just going to be very blunt, the white folks ain't doing this, the white folks ain't doing that, this other party ain't doing that, this other party ain't doing that. What are we not doing? We have to take ownership for what we're not doing as a people and what we're not doing as an institution that we call the church. So, in order for us to really do all that we need to do, yeah, it's fine to pray. Yes, it's great to protest. Yes, it's great to participate, but we've got to put that action to our faith. We can't just talk about it's going to get better in the by and by. My grandmama said that. And in
Right.
2020, we're still dealing with systemic racism. We're talking about it's going to get better sooner or later. My father said that, and we're still dealing with it in 2020. If racism is going to stop, if what we're seeing in the news media, police brutality is going to stop, we as leaders in the church, as shepherds, as elders, as ministers, as ministry leaders in the church, have to do more than just provide lip service. We have to be the shepherds that are among the sheep that stink even worse than sheep, because we not only been around our sheep, but we've been around those that don't even want to be a part of our pasture.
Right.
Right.
Right. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Uh,
Mr.
Mr.
Tyrone, your
Tyrone,
last
your
words?
last words?
I'm praying for you.
We need
We
that.
need that.
Praying for everybody who's watching. I'm praying for this nation. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Well,
Well, Pastor Daryl, Pastor Tyrone, I want to
appreciate you
appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to
to share your
share
views
your views on how we can bridge
the racial
the racial
divide.
divide.
One of the
One of
things
the things that I've been able to
I
pick
pick
out
out
from
from
our
our
discussion
discussion tonight
tonight,
the church
the
has a
church has a
responsibility
responsibility beyond the
beyond the
pulpit.
pulpit. The church has
The
a
church has a
responsibility to
responsibility to
educate
educate
not only
not only to uh,
what the Bible
what the
says,
Bible says, but
but
also
also our civic
our civic
responsibilities.
responsibilities.
The church
The
has
church
a
has a
responsibility
responsibility
to
to
get
also
people
get
who are
people who
more
are more
versed
versed
in
in
topics that
topics that
we are
we
not.
are not. And in one way or the other, let us do more than just saying over the pulpit. Get people to vote. That is the way we can effectively bring out the change that we are looking for. And so I want to say thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate you. I will tell you, you are one of the people I look up to. And so hearing you today, your thoughts and your understanding of certain topics has really enlightened me myself. And I believe that we're going to implement certain things even in Philadelphia. I trust that when these corona issues settle, we'll be able to have you over and see what is happening in Philadelphia as well. Thank you so much. Have a good night. If there is any way I can also help where you are, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for the
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Appreciate your leadership.
Thank you. All right. God bless.